we've got a good group here so far. So I will go ahead and get us started. And then hopefully as we go through introductions here, we'll get some more people to join us here. But thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Chelsea Fetzer. I am the Sales and Marketing Supervisor here at Biz Technology Solutions. We are excited to have you a part of our webinar that we're going to be hosting here about AI and how those things can start to revolutionize your business. I know that's a super hot topic right now for everybody. So our fabulous CTO, Retta Shafani, is going to enlighten us on all things AI. So Retta, I will let you take it away.
Perfect. Thanks everybody for joining us here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about AI. I'm going to turn off my camera just for a second so that I can move some of the screens off of my screen. Perfect. So in our topic today, revolutionize your business with AI. We have a ton of conversations around AI all the time now. It seems like whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, or in the office, or at home, somehow AI manages to come up as a topic. So we thought this would be a great avenue for us to basically have this conversation and share some of our thoughts in terms of our experience with it and working with different businesses and how business can really benefit from it. So my name is Retta Shafani. I'm CTO at Biz Technology Solutions. I've been working in technology for over 20 years, helping clients with everything from IT infrastructure needs all the way to software development, AI, as well as consulting services around strategic technology initiatives for companies. For the last actually now 12 years, I've been writing articles. Tech Target is one of the places where I write about technology and tools targeting IT folks, IT leaders, and executives. And also for a while there, I wrote for CIO.com. The irony of it is a lot of the things that I wrote, I can go back now and ask ChatGPT just a few sentences and it can actually generate the entire article, which is really ironic here. But that's part of the conversation that many are having, which is AI coming for our jobs? In fact, there was a post that I read earlier this week on the dailymail.com. It said, AI is coming for your job. Bots could take 80% of human careers in the next few years, experts warn. Now, again, we have to take that with really, we have to be careful how we see that statement. I mean, we'll take it with a grain of salt because ultimately AI is going to streamline some of the jobs and some of the areas, but it's not always about replacing all the jobs. I think there's going to be some shifts, but ultimately there's some great opportunities. However, when it comes to creating presentations and presenting some content such as this one, I'm starting to think that actually AI can take my job. And the irony of it is I did this exercise where I went on simplified.com and I literally just typed in a sentence, create me a presentation on how AI can revolutionize businesses. What you're looking at here is the entire presentation that was generated within minutes, actually not even minutes, I would say 30 seconds. Everything from images to text, everything was generated through simplified.com. The content was really good. In fact, I was really impressed. I actually picked some ideas from it, but I didn't feel right using some AI generated content for this presentation because I still wanted to have that human touch and the experiences that we had ourselves. But I decided to take it to another level. So I was able to generate the presentation completely through AI. And then I decided, you know what? Wouldn't it be fun to just use voiceover? And I did. And in fact, I uploaded the presentation that I generated from simplified.com. I went to Speechify and I uploaded the deck. And then I chose Snoop Doggy Dogg as the voice to present it. And it was incredible. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I love, the 80s music, the 90s and everything. And of course, one of the options to choose from in terms of voices was Snoop Doggy Dogg. So, I liked a lot of his music. back in the 80s. So I said, you know what? It will be fun to actually use this voiceover. And I did. And it spoke just like the real person. Again, a testament to how AI can truly help us with some of the day-to-day activities. But let's talk about how it really is relevant in the business context. So this is what we're going to cover today. AI in business context, the productivity impact of AI. We then going to talk about the different use cases. Collaboration is one of them, because again, every day we're interacting with each other and communicating. So what value can AI bring to the table? We also going to talk about AI and the use of data-driven insights, making business decisions based on information that is displayed visually, analyzed through AI, and presented in a way that maybe it highlights certain things that are important. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about maybe some of the concerns that some of us have in the tech sector. And in fact, not just the tech sector, everybody has some real tangible concerns when it comes to all the ethical considerations of AI. Then we're going to jump into overcoming some of the implementation challenges. Because ultimately, anything you look to implement for your business or your customers, there's certain implication. You want the project and the initiative to be successful. You want to make sure it's done right. So, okay. So this slide, AI in business. What is the business of a business? On the right-hand side, these are some typical departments that we see in some of the organizations that we work with, including ours. You have the typical administration and operations, sales and marketing, of course, human resources, customer service, and of course, accounting and finance. Now, there's certainly more departments likely to find out there, whether it's R&D or there's facilities, maintenance groups, quality or QA. Companies have different departments, and those are the individuals that work in those departments that support the business itself. On the left-hand side, we really start to think about how can AI be applied in a business? Because yes, we're facing all these great tools that we see the hype around, that they can do some cool things. But how can we really operationalize them? In fact, I was thinking about this morning. I left my house around 6:30 and I put in my GPS Starbucks. And as I pull up to Starbucks, I wait in line and I have to tell them my order, and they go ahead, I pay for it through the app, they give me my order, I leave. But I was thinking, wouldn't that be nice for me to simply put in my car, Starbucks, I just go to the drive-through, I skip the line, and they have my order ready. Why do I have to explain to them? They all have my data, right? Our cell phones track our locations, our apps track our locations, our cars track our locations in some cases. So why not connect all these data elements to give us a great experience? And that's what AI is about. Mixing data from different sources and being able to predict that when I show up at Starbucks this morning at 6:30 or 6:45, took a few minutes to get there, they know my habits, they know what I typically order, they even recommend pastries. Now that would have been a great use of AI, but of course it does cross certain boundaries around privacy and tracking some personal information that some of us may not necessarily be comfortable with. But really, let's talk about the use of AI for real businesses and real departments. So the first one, just a typical example, reduction of repetitive tasks on administration and operations, or ops. We have to really think about what some of the employees and some of the departments, for example, in operational administration, they're constantly dealing with emails, inbound emails coming in and requests, and they have to vet through those and figure out what they need to do with it. Well, the reality is we've seen companies actually leverage things like Levity.ai that will automatically route emails to the appropriate individuals within the company. And that's really helpful, especially when you are an employee that receives a lot of emails, but you also don't want to miss an email that may be relevant or important, whether it's a request for more product information or there's a customer issue that needs to be handled and the customer is upset. The AI tools available out there can actually analyze the content of the email and recognize who they need to go to automatically. So that will reduce some of the repetitive tasks that we find ourselves doing every day, sitting in front of Outlook and sifting through emails. Another good use case that we see AI in is supporting the sales team with AI capabilities. Now, obviously, it does require the information to actually live in a system. There are still some businesses, unfortunately, that are not using things like Salesforce, CRM, let's see, Monday, Zoho, and few of those popular sales automation tools. But for the businesses that are using them, there's a great potential to infuse AI to support the sales team. And the way AI has been able to support the sales team for a lot of the modern sales tools is by basically gaining more information around your customers for you. We've seen the use case where Microsoft CRM, for example, analyzes customer data like their LinkedIn profile. And if that customer opportunity is in your pipeline as a sales rep and the person gets promoted, guess what? It will notify you. It will also give you some insights that this gentleman or this lady is celebrating her or his birthday today. Please make sure you send a note to wish them a happy birthday. Again, to further increase the bond and rapport with your accounts. AI is able to grab all that information and recognize what some of the best activities that you should do to further the relationship that you have with your customers. AI can also send you reminders that you have a task to follow up on a quote and you haven't done that yet. So let's make sure to follow up. It's been too long. So those are some of the examples that we see in the sales department. For accounting and finance, we've seen a great use case of information extraction using AI. Accounting departments, of course, deal with invoices left and right? Suppliers are sending them invoices, vendors are sending them invoices, everybody's sending them invoices. These invoices come as a PDF, they all look different, they all are formatted differently. Some of them are handwritten, which I still see a few coming across, which is really interesting that we're still handwriting invoices. But again, work orders or invoices for work performed at the facility can be the case. What we've seen AI do is help extract invoice information from those documents that are either emailed or faxed in or scanned in, and then massage that information and place it into the ERP or accounting system, eliminating, not completely, but eliminating quite a bit of data entry that's being done by accounting staff. If you consider the amount of time it takes accounting to sit there and go through, depending on the size of the client, but let's say 100 invoices a day, and if it takes a few minutes per invoice, that's a lot of time spent repeating the same task, which is reading from the document and then plugging it into the software. But AI can use OCR or optical character recognition technology to analyze the information, send notification to let you know that an invoice from this company came in, and then load it into the system so that all the accounting staff have to do is reconcile at the end of the day, X amount of invoices came in, X amount of invoices were posted successfully, X amount of invoices need human interaction. Those are the exceptions. So that's another great use case. Another area is the use of bots. Now, one of the biggest things about bots is the convenience of bots. And we've seen many websites, whether it's an online e-commerce where you purchase something online and you want to ask the status of it, or you contact your cell phone provider and you want to check on something specific, or even go on Expedia to check on a flight that you arranged or you booked and you want to make some changes. Bots give us the flexibility and convenience to talk to somebody or something 24/7. Now, bots are getting smarter and smarter. I know I'm guilty of sometimes, even when talking through to a bot online, I just say talk to an agent, because many of the older bots technology are very, I would say, not sophisticated enough to really have truly a conversation and solve the problems. So you tend to want to skip that. But with some of the newer ones that we're seeing in the marketplace, they're extremely intelligent and they are connected to internal systems where they can extract information from a system. It could be an ERP, it could be an accounting package, it could be inventory or warehouse. And they can give you all the answers you want without having to escalate or talk to a representative. The next one is human resources can also leverage AI. Now, this one was interesting because as I looked at some of the platforms that are available out there, and this was really post-COVID, because more folks are working remote, which meant that HR departments and managers don't have really visibility over some of their employees. And AI in some use cases has been used to analyze the productivity of employees through monitoring the behavior on their computers, their activities on their phones, their communication tools that they use at the company level, and provide some level of, or a score on the employee's productivity. Now, again, that gets really tricky because you almost feel like that there is a sense that the big brother, somebody's watching over your shoulder and analyzing what you're doing. But the reality is some large corporations are using this technology to analyze the performance of remote workers. Now, in some cases, it may be validated because, unfortunately, there are a few exceptions where some folks don't really, do a lot of work remote in some cases. We've seen cases where people are having two jobs at once, working for two different companies at the same time, full time, but because they're remote, they can hide some of that. But again, it's the exception. This is not the norm or the rule, but AI has been able to help with some of those. But another part that AI has helped HR too is around gauging the overall sentiment of the office staff. And this is really related to analyzing some of the conversations that are happening, not necessarily verbatim to look at the conversation itself, but just to gauge a sense of, are the employees happy? Are they frustrated? Are they angry at the company, or maybe some of the changes that the company is making? And these things are extremely helpful to HR because that's their real role, is to support their employees and ensure that they're happy and there are no employee issues that need to be addressed. So there is a little bit of benefit there. So what do we expect in terms of improvements once some of these AI technologies are used in some of these departments? Well, we can clearly identify that for any business that leverages some of those AI capabilities, there's going to be some sort of reduction in operational costs. You're either going to schedule less time for staff, or maybe you're going to move individuals around from one position to another because maybe some of the work is going to be automated. In some cases, we see improvement in demand forecasting and supply chain. So think of customers that are in manufacturing. If they need better visibility over what they need to plan for based on the upcoming orders so that they have inventory that is prepared and they don't have folks that are idle, AI can definitely improve that because it can analyze the data that it has access to, also predict the sort of volume they're going to have in the next 3 months, and make recommendations around what should be ordered so that you're not having to wait and sit still because some ingredient is running low or running behind. Improved decision making, that one is extremely important. Managers and leaders of businesses have to make certain decisions around the direction of the business or make adjustments to their strategy. And what better way to do that than to have access to real data that represents maybe your historical trends and what had happened, and then potentially predict, if you stay on this track, where you're going to go. If your target revenues that you budgeted or planned for X amount of dollar, and now you're seeing that you're likely not going to hit those numbers, you need to be able to make some adjustments so that you're preparing yourself to readjust and meet those targets. Research and development. That's probably one of the great tools that we see in things like ChatGPT and everything. Any topic that you want to research or get more information about, you can certainly ask that question to ChatGPT. But we're also seeing this in pharmaceutical organizations that are actually simulating certain research using AI, where they no longer have to actually do real chemical tests. They can simulate them in the software, and AI makes some recommendations around what's the best formula for that drug or medicine, whatever it is that they're creating or researching or developing. Improved customer service, as I mentioned earlier. Having the use of bots is extremely helpful because it can provide customer service to those users who need some assistance 24/7. You may not want to have staff that are sitting in front of a computer and by a phone 24/7. However, a bot can do that, and it can answer most of the typical questions that are needed, and it will improve customer experience. Quick and effective content creation. As I mentioned during my introduction, we have a case here where we can generate a presentation. Again, it could be just to help us kind of get the ideas flowing and be able to use that tool to just support us as we go and need maybe some corrections and some adjustments. AI does a great job with content creation. The content creation could even be images or graphics. It could be audio files. If you want to create training documentation where there's a voiceover, you can have voiceover from AI actors. Predictive maintenance. This one is another good area. If you have historical data around certain parts, let's say mechanical parts, belts or other things, or even in elevators, and all that historical data is ingested by an AI model, then it can actually predict when the next failure is going to happen so that you can prepare and purchase spare parts and replace them prior to the anticipated failure date or range or estimation, because obviously it can't be always accurate. But if something that is important is likely to need some maintenance or repair, why not leverage AI to actually support those? So that's a huge improvement. And of course, personalized experience for customers and employees. AI can certainly create unique experiences for customers, whether it's in retail by recommending certain products that they may like based on historical purchase habits, or just create convenience where it recognizes what they're going to buy and proactively make that recommendation or even purchase it. You know, we've seen in the past where cameras are mounted in fridges, and I think some of them are already in retail, where when you're running low on milk, it will order it and it will show up at your doorstep. Now that's cool. But again, AI can do far more than just that, even though it's used for that use case, but there's certainly more. What about collaboration? We're all using platforms to collaborate on. In fact, this is what we're using right now. Zoom, the platform that allows us to share with you some of this content and hopefully have Q&As where we answer some of your questions. But how is AI used for collaboration? Well, we'll start with the first bullet, which is language translation. We were in a meeting this morning with a group of folks, and we had over 6 different time zones from Philippines, India, Denver, and then we had, of course, the East Coast, and then a couple of more. Oh, one in Spain. But language translation is extremely helpful because AI can translate the content of the chat, and even in some cases, the voice or the words that are spoken, it can translate them and put them in text. So that's certainly a capability that's extremely helpful. Knowledge sharing, number 2. And this is going to come up more and more as we start to see some of the capabilities of Microsoft Teams with the Copilot capabilities that are coming up. But Teams will actually make recommendations around content that you need to view or interact with if somebody mentions something to you in chat or in conversation. So again, you no longer have to fish for the information. Knowledge will be shared with you directly through the bot or AI. Number 3, bots. This is no different than when we ask a bot on a website for some additional information on a topic or a product or a service. Collaboration platforms will allow you to ask a bot just about anything, whether it's, can you send me a reminder on the following task, or are you able to set up a meeting for the 3 of us for this date, or even ask, how was the weather? What's the status of this project? And then the bot will go internally, find that information, and come back and give you some feedback on it. Meeting summaries. This one is really neat because many of us are spending a lot of time in meetings, right? And one thing about meetings is if you're paying attention, that's great, but you're probably going to forget some of the content if you don't take some notes of some sort or record the meeting. In other cases, folks can be distracted and have other things that are pressing and not paying attention or fully immersed in the meeting. Well, guess what? Meeting notes help tremendously, but nobody really wants to take the meeting notes, or unless you have a dedicated resource just for that. So to solve that, many of the platforms out there offer AI-based meeting summaries. Fireflies, Microsoft Teams Premium, Slack, a number of these platforms actually will automatically generate a summary of the meeting and also provide you with some next steps or tasks based on the conversation. So it's no longer notes that are verbatim transcription of the transcript itself of what every word was said. It's actually summarized in an appropriate way so that you can just take those summaries and email them out to the group. And the last one is sentiment analysis. And this one is primarily just to gauge the overall sentiment of the chat itself, whether you're doing it at a company level or doing it at an individual level. You're just trying to gauge, the temperature of that conversation. And it could be a conversation with a customer or a vendor too. But that's AI where it can analyze the text itself. So this is just a quick example on the left-hand side. Some of the notes that were summarized using Microsoft Teams. The meeting was probably, I would say, maybe an hour or less. And then after the meeting, the notes are generated based on AI or open AI that Microsoft uses. And then the notes, as I outlined, they're called just suggested notes. And they're under the recap section. Now, this is a feature that was rolled out in June. So it's still in the early stage, but it does okay. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a good add-on that Microsoft added. In the bottom right-hand side, that's Slack. Some of the features that Slack has introduced around AI is to really give you a condensed summary of all the messages that you received. I know in most times when I'm in meetings and I come out, I typically have anywhere from 10 to 15 Teams messages sitting there. And I have to go through each one of them to see exactly which one I need to react to, which one I need to respond, which one I can ignore. Well, that's going to be the case for many of us. What better way than to actually press a button that can read all those messages that came in and summarize them for you so that you're only focusing on the ones that are relevant to you and require your attention. In some cases, you need to just shorten the text. Let's say you want to send out an announcement or a message to a group of individuals. You can see on the mouse, we're clicking on shorten, elaborate, or change tone. So we can even change the tone of the message. This would definitely be helpful for some of the folks that can get really angry when they see a message and they write a response that could be a little bit tricky, and I wouldn't say offensive necessarily, but more on the serious / angry tone. And that's when they should really kind of pause, take a breather, and come back and rewrite it. Well, AI will actually rewrite it for you. So you can say, hey, you know what? I know I'm a little frustrated right now. Maybe this is not a good time for me to write the response to this individual. Let me just soften the tone a little bit. And AI can help you with that. What about using AI for analysis? You know, every day we see users that are sitting there using Excel spreadsheets, analyzing data, whether they're looking at their finances and where they're heading with that, or simply analyzing some sort of, order trend or tickets trend. Those are all relevant things that AI can actually help with the data analysis itself. And it can also predict certain things for you. And that's extremely helpful. So as you can see here, not only can AI predict outcomes based on historical data, but it can actually have a conversation with you. You can talk in a natural language and AI can query the information on your behalf so that it will display the data. I can show you an example here. Ask CSV, which uses ChatGPT behind the scene. I can upload the information or the CSV file. It will analyze the file, and then I can actually ask it a question. Some of the questions that I've asked were just general things. What are the overall trends? I also ask questions around, what are the most expensive services that are outlined in this Excel spreadsheet? And it actually generates the response with charts. I can actually look at the charts and see the information that I need. I no longer have to rely on a report writer, a database administrator, or a developer to create some of the reports if I have access to the raw data. And this actually is getting better every day. In fact, there are tools right now that can connect directly to your SQL database. For many of you who are using an ERP system that uses SQL backend, and ChatGPT will analyze the tables, the names of the columns, and allow you to interact and ask questions. Now, it's still not perfect yet. They're getting there, especially with databases that don't necessarily have the column names in a human readable format. Some of them are abbreviated and things like that. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. But this is certainly a technology that's getting better every day. And it's going to really change how we interact with data and how quickly we can get the information that we need. So now we talked about all the wonders of what AI can do for businesses, real use cases that can be used today. What are some of the other considerations we need to have? Ethical consideration, of course, and that's on a lot of folks' minds. Bias and discrimination, that's also a concern. Folks that are creating or training these models, what sort of data is being fed into these systems? Are there any biases that are being ingested or infused into the training model that will result in a biased opinion or response from AI. Transparency and accountability. Where is the source of the data? Whether it's news or whether it's medical data, where is the information coming from? Is it reliable? Has it been approved? Creativity and ownership. Who owns AI? Who owns the data that ChatGPT, for example, presents to us? Who has the creativity rights? If I have AI generate an incredible graphic and I end up selling it, is it copyrighted by the software vendor, the AI tool, or is it actually my creation when I'm really just asking to create a scribble of Mario flying in a spaceship? Social media manipulation and misinformation. The power of AI to automate some of the activities around posting on social media, generating content and things like that. Could that influence folks that are subscribed to these social media accounts and review the content? Privacy, security, and surveillance. I mentioned earlier having AI make an order for me for Starbucks before I show up. Who has access to my location information? What can they do with it? Would they try to push advertisements? Would they analyze my behavior that I'm speeding around the corner? Things like that. Those are all things that are a concern that need to be addressed. Job displacement. As we talked earlier, there are some jobs that obviously will be streamlined and reduced. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be replaced, but I keep going back to thinking how cars were manufactured back in the 80s or the 70s and how today's cars are being made. There's a huge difference in terms of the labor that's used to manufacture cars compared to what it used to be. Now everything is robotic, where in the past it required a lot of manual labor. And of course, autonomous weapons. And that's a concern. I mean, we do see drones today flying in, whenever there's conflict and everything. And of course, autonomous cars, we see cars driving themselves. Autonomous weapons are probably right there. And that's a concern for many, that how is this going to change the landscape when it comes to conflict and things like that? And the last one, and not least, the use in cyber attacks. Using AI and cyber attacks, generating incredibly compelling phishing emails, or using AI to call individuals to pretend it's a family member because it cloned the voice and ask for money or something like that. Those are real concerns. So now that we talked about all these application and potential use cases of AI, where do we go from here, right? I think on most social media sites, you swipe and then you're going to see the top 10 tools, top 10 AI gadgets, automations, prompts for ChatGPT. There's always a site or some sort of response from somebody around the best tools out there. Well, the reality for business is a little bit trickier. And this is why one of the tools and the sites that we use really has done a great job outlining all the tools that are available and broke them down by target audience. And it highlights which ones are free, which ones are paid, whether you're a business owner, you're in accounting or healthcare, it can actually highlight the AI tools that would work for your business. So there's no more mystery around wondering which tool would work for your business. And the link, I left it there. This is a great website. They keep it updated very frequently. They add to it and remove things that are no longer valid. but it is certainly a resource that anybody can use that you can look at when thinking about an AI tool for your business that you're unsure of. I'll give you a second to copy the link. So now that you've identified some tools that would be helpful for your business, what should you do next? Plan, plan, and plan. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to implementing any new technology or any change within an organization. But you first have to identify what are some of the areas that you're suffering from that you think AI can help streamline. You have to account for what the ROI is going to be. In fact, I just saw an announcement this morning that Netflix is hiring an AI product manager for $900,000 salary. Yes. So now they're posting jobs for AI candidates, and Netflix posted one for $900,000 a year for an AI product manager. Not a real person, but it's a job. But I can guarantee you they've measured their ROI and know exactly that spending almost $1 million a year on a virtual person is going to have far more returns for them than what they're going to pay for. So any business should do the same thing. Find out what exactly you're going to gain back from implementing this AI tool or automation or whatever it is, and make sure that there is an upside to it. Identify the technologies to consider. Which AI tools you need to look at. Are you looking at the open source one, or are you looking at the commercialized one? Microsoft has a number of enterprise-ready AI tools that can be used that come with support, while open source is a little bit trickier. The support is based on the community's support, not necessarily an individual company. Make sure you score the tools that you're evaluating. Give a score. If there are multiple options, find out which one is actually going to be the right fit for you. And then, of course, test and evaluate the different options. You can always experiment and make sure that you're comfortable with it. But as Eisenhower said, plans are nothing. Planning is everything.